All right, so welcome everybody. Welcome all the Design Challenge participants. This is the define phase. So first, let me just introduce myself. I am Ashley Cooper. I am a mid-level designer at Woodforest National Bank. I have over 8 years of experience in design, and I am a mom of one 10-month-old son, and I occasionally run marathons. So that was like a fun fact that I thought to put in there. And you are able to connect with me on LinkedIn if one of the hosts or the moderator is able to post my LinkedIn in the chat for you guys. You feel free to connect with me, interact with me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to talk to you guys and, meet with you guys face to face as well. All right, for this workshop, these are the materials that you're going to need. I say you're going to need a pen and a pencil or one or the other, paper or a laptop, and of course, the discovery research that you have been doing for the past week. And on our agenda for today, we're going to do a brief recap of our discovery research. And then we're going to go into what is the define phase of the introduction.
Actually, I'm sorry to interrupt, but the slide isn't moving. It's switching to you. Oh, yes.
The slide's not moving? Is it moving?
Oh, yeah, it works now. Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Okay, you may continue.
Okay. Are you still able to see the slides now? Okay, perfect. Just want to make sure. All right, technical difficulties. So we're going to go through a 4-part process where we're going to start with the activity, and it's going to be an actual activity that you're going to do within the workshop, and it's called the How Might We's. The second step is going to be the problem statement. We're going to talk about defining the core problems identified during your discovery. And the third step is going to be your user stories, the who, the what, and why activity. And this is an activity that I would want you to work with your teams over the next week. And this is going to be something that you're going to work together and discover the user stories and prioritize those user stories. And then the fourth thing I'm going to go over is other deliverables. That is going to be additional ways to define your problem and your user needs. And that's going to best help you going forth in your project. And then, of course, at the end, there's going to be room for questions and answers, lots of room for questions and answers. Okay, so let's start with a recap of what we've already learned. Now, I watched Jennifer Fast's presentation I can say about 5 or 6 times. And one of the quotes that stood out to me in that presentation was, in the beginning, you might have an initial brief or an initial sort of idea of what you really might want to go after, but you really are looking at exploring opportunities in the discovery phase. And that's something that I want you to continue to do throughout each phase that you're going to go every week. Now, the recap of the
Actually, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I feel like the slide isn't moving. Are we switching to another slide? We're still in agenda right now. Oh, yeah, it works now.
Okay, let me go back one. Did y'all see this slide?
Yes.
Okay. Now, do you see this slide?
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Okay.
All right, so the discovery research recap. So a few things that Jennifer had you kind of jot down or to understand was you have to understand your problem space. Also in the discovery research, you define the problem scope. And this time you also gather your evidence using user research, and you gain clarity and direction. And some of the methods that she had were ethnographs and interviews, diary studies, and journey mapping. And those are some of the things that she mentioned that I wanted to remind you guys of. Making sure you can still see. Now we're going into our introduction and what is the define phase. So I started out, thinking, how can I best explain for beginners or for anyone that wanted to know what a define phase was? And I started out thinking, okay, why don't I make an acronym? So the define phase is gathering all the findings during your discovery phase to first D, define the core problem, E, explore user needs, F, focus on pain points and delights. I, integrate convergent thinking. N, not assuming anything. And E, eliminating biases, which are all things that you're going to be doing during the define phase. Now, I wanted to kind of revamp what you were going to be going through and seeing all the stages at once. So right now you are transitioning from number 1, the discovery phase, to number 2, the define phase. And in that discovery phase, you're divergent thinking. And now we're going into convergent thinking, where we're going to be finding the meaning of our research, framing the challenge, and thinking broadly. And after the define phase, we'll move into divergent thinking again, where we'll generate solutions and refine ideas and think narrowly. Now, if you're thinking, okay, what is divergent or convergent thinking? Those are 2 different types of thinking or modes of thinking. Divergent thinking is using your imagination. Say a question comes to mind and you sprout all kinds of ideas that comes out to your head. So that's more of brainstorming, which is also called creative or horizontal thinking. Convergent thinking is using your logic, and that's gathering all the facts that you've either used in your research or from other sources and to bring it together to find a solution. And that's another word for critical, vertical, analytical, or linear thinking. And using both of these modes of thinking is what you're going to be using in UX. It's called lateral thinking, and that's thinking outside of the box. So this is the opportunity for you to grab a pen, a pencil, paper, your laptop, your phone, whatever you want to use to kind of jot this down. And I'm going to give you a little bit more time than I have written on my slide for you to do this activity. And this is called the how might we's. So the how might we's are for each of the pain points throughout the exercise. You'll have an example for, instead of saying for each of the pain points throughout, you have how might we. For example, instead of asking, how do you prevent people from texting and driving? That's a problem that you might have. You can turn into an ambitious how might we by asking, how might we encourage people to focus on the road while driving? The core problems are interruptions and distractions that can become delights. The key is to address them in innovative ways. So the structure of a how might we is going to be how might we, and then your action or what. So I have 5 minutes, but I want you to kind of jot down maybe 2 or 3 how might we's that you would bring back to your team after this meeting or later on this week when you're going through the define phase. And I'll give you some time. And if one of my moderator or my hosts want to play a little music, some thinking music for them to kind of go through this activity. And in any questions that can pop up at this time as well. Oh. Okay.
Maybe we can, yeah. Okay. So Ashley, there's a question right now, is that someone is asking if you can share another example or how might we question. Right.
So an example of a how might we, I could just repeat the one I have here. So instead of asking, how do we prevent people from texting and driving? You can turn it into a how might we and ask, how might we encourage people to focus on the road while driving? So another way is, let me see, how might we encourage people to sign up for a new product on our site or purchase a new product on our site? It could be another example. And thank you everyone that were trying to help me in the chat. I'm scrolling through. Yeah, I found how to share the music. As someone that works in tech, I should be more tech savvy, right? All right, and that looks like that's our time. So you will have more time throughout the week if you want to create more How Might We's, but we're going to move on from here. And we're going to go to step 2. Oh, excuse me. There we go. Step 2, and which is going to be the problem statement. And we're going to define our core problem or problems. So there can be more than one. So when it comes to the technique, I personally like to use the 4 W's technique. And they consist of who, what, where, and why. The who is impacted by the issue. Make sure you get specifics about including information from what you know about the user demographic, using personas, and other findings from your discovery research. So what is the problem? What is the obstacle the users are facing? What are they trying to do? And what will make their process less difficult? And then we go to the where. Where will they be using this product? Is there a specific context in which this problem comes up? And is the issue purely digital, or is there a physical component to that? And then why? And that's why is this important? And why will the user benefit from solving this actual problem? An example for the problem statement that I can come up with is a single young adult who moves to a new city where they don't know anyone, needs to know where to go to meet people and make friends so they don't feel isolated. That would be a problem statement showing the what, the who is the single young adults, the what is them moving to a new city and not knowing where to meet new people, and where is being in a local new city, and why, so they don't feel isolated and they can make friends. And then we're going to go into number 3, which is going to be the user stories. And that's going to be the who, the what, the why activity. And this is an activity that I want you to do over the next week with your group. So we're not going to do this actually in the workshop, but we're going to work on this with our teams. And can you see that? Okay, it didn't come up. I see what's happening when it doesn't switch over. I am looking at my presentation notes and it doesn't click over for some reason. Okay, are you able to see the screen? Okay, perfect. So this is going to be the teamwork, and this is the structure of a user story. So the user stories are the first attempt for designers to make and determine what a product needs to be in its purest form, or the MVP, which stands for the minimal viable product. The user stories are simple descriptions of a feature that are told from the perspective of the users. User stories typically follow a template that involves identifying who the person is, what they want, and why. So a user story would read, as a type of user, I want this goal so that this reason. And my example that I have here is, as a new user, I want to sign up for an account so that I can save my information. And that is a typical reason for anyone to sign up for an account, whether it be a retail account or a social media account. And once you've started creating those user stories, then you're able to prioritize them. And these will be ways that you can prioritize the features that you're going to have implemented in your MVP. So the ways you can prioritize your user stories is have them as the role, and they can be a new user, it can be a returning user, or it can even be an admin to that app. And then their task, and the examples I have here is they want to sign up for an account. They want to connect with friends. Hold on. There we go. It's lagging. There we go. They want to sign up for an account. They want to connect with friends, and they want to set their preferences on an app. And from this, you'll label the importance, and they can be high, medium, or low importance. And usually when making an MVP, you would set your goal to use majority of your high or medium important user stories so that the little ones can be implemented later on in later releases. And then we go to number 4. And these are other deliverables, additional ways to define your problem and user needs. And these are just a few that I have, but there will be some resources that I will provide later on, probably tomorrow or later on this evening in the actual Discord for you guys to kind of discover more other ways that you can define your user, define the problem that they're having, and use that to further generate ideas in the next phase. So other common deliverables. So these other common deliverables, I could think of the top 3 in my head would be personas. And the purpose of a persona is to create a reliable and realistic representation of your key audience. And it should be based on qualitative and some quantitative user research. Your personas are only as good as your research behind them. And then the next thing I thought of was the experience mapping. And this is a visualization of an entire end-to-end experience that the generic person or user goes through in order to accomplish a goal. Using an experience map early on in the UX process helps to identify strategies, opportunities, and generate ideas. And then the next thing, which is usually comes after making your user stories, is your user flows. And this is a path that users take to navigate a product for a purpose. In this next phase, you'll be sketching and designing wireframes for your product. To create an effective wireframe, you need to first isolate and define your user flows. And like I said, I'll have additional resources towards the end of tomorrow for you guys in the chat, or sorry, not in the chat, in the Discord channel for you guys to kind of click through and understand what these really mean and how to go about creating personas, experience mapping, which could be journey mapping, and also user flow.
Hey everyone, on behalf of IterateUX, we would like to thank you so much for watching this week's event. If you like the content, please leave a like and subscribe. We'll have events every Thursday at 5:30 Pacific Time. Join our Discord in the description to find out more.